What is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome back to the channel. iPhone 11 Pro versus iPhone 14 Pro. So in this episode, we're going to talk about if it's really worth it to upgrade over here to the iPhone 14 Pro now that I've had the 11 Pro for several years now, and I've had this for a couple of months already here with the iPhone 14 Pro. So we're going to begin by talking about the price point, $999, and some people are claiming this is the best iPhone or the best phone in general for $1,000, and it would be hard to argue against that. I mean, it might just be. It has stainless steel body. It does have really good triple cameras, dynamic island, OLED display, super smooth ProMotion, super fast A16 Bionic chipset, the fastest in the world basically, 6 gigabytes of RAM. With the iPhone 11 Pro though, you were rocking a 5.8-inch OLED display, 60 hertz right here, and this also had that iPhone 10-like design, which a lot of people just loved because this design right here really did give you a really comfortable feel with really nice triple camera setup right here for the iPhone 11 Pro. So it still had a lot going for it. But when just talking in terms of body and build, I definitely would recommend the upgrade. Reason being here is because you're going to the more modern looking industrial design of the iPhone 14 Pro. Yes, some people say it actually looks older because you took it back to the iPhone 4S in 5 days. But honestly, I think, you know, having the squared edges matching the iPads and everything, it's a little bit more modern looking than the rounded edges of the iPhone 11 Pro. Not to say those were bad. These actually feel quite comfortable in the hand. But in terms of the back material, Apple has carried on the iPhone 11 Pro into the iPhone 14 Pro. It essentially has a similar material on the back. You can see just how much larger the cameras actually got. And overall, the iPhone 14 Pro just feels more weighty, like a little bit more of a premium device than the iPhone 11 Pro. So if you're looking for more premium, you'll definitely want to do this upgrade. It definitely feels that way. You can also see that the dynamic island really makes this look like a very up-to-date phone. I mean, look at the notch now versus dynamic island. It just looks like a much older phone there on the iPhone 11 Pro at this point. Now, in terms of the display quality, what do you really notice here that's different if you upgrade to the iPhone 14 Pro? In my experience, there's a few things. The bezels look a little bit thinner than that of the iPhone 11 Pro. You can see they're definitely thicker here. So the iPhone 14 Pro kind of feels more closer to all screen, but then you see this pill, the dynamic island up here, and that kind of gets in the way a little bit. But overall, it just feels like closer to an all screen than this phone due to the bezels and the thick or the wider notch up here. Now, in terms of actual scrolling, you'll also notice here with this display difference is ProMotion is much smoother. So I definitely would consider doing this upgrade if you want, you know, to have just a much smoother experience. It's definitely worth it. Colors wise, you're not going to be overly impressed with just the overall saturation and stuff like that. You'll feel like you have something similar, but what you'll really notice is how much brighter this phone looks. The iPhone 14 Pro just blows away the 11 Pro in brightness, which is kind of funny because I remember when the iPhone 11 Pro came out, this phone was actually incredibly bright, you know, for the time being. Not that it's not bright today, it's still quite bright, but it doesn't look anywhere near as bright as something like an iPhone 14 Pro. However, the iPhone 11 is more comparable to something like the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus in its brightness. So it's still not bad. It's still very good, but those are the things you're going to notice. Also, you'll notice when you are, you know, in landscape and stuff like that, that the notch and the dynamic island look a little bit different. Also, you'll notice that when you are in landscape, you will see the dynamic island if you zoom in on things here for the 14 Pro, and the same will hold true for the 11 Pro. If you zoom in on things, dynamic island will show up. Other than that, there's not a major difference. They operate the same. They have the same software on board. So just the overall experience of using these is quite similar. Although if you felt like the iPhone 11 Pro was the perfect size, this does feel a little bit more of like a little bit less comfortable because they're not rounded edges no more, and it feels a little bigger. So it feels like you're reaching a little more on the iPhone 14 Pro as compared to the 11 Pro. Now, when comparing the software between both of these phones here, you are going to get iOS 16.1.1 as of the recording of this video. Essentially, it's really always down to them camera updates. That's really all you see every year with the software changes, because 16.1.1 is going to run the same on both phones. That's actually really good for iPhone 11 Pro users who had this phone since it came out back in 2019, that you're still like looking super modern. I mean, if you don't got the funds right now, or you just don't want to upgrade right now, you're fine. Like, the software is the same thing on both phones. So I don't want to, talk my jaw off around software, because it's iOS, it's widgets, it's app libraries, it's lock screens. Come over here. That's what it is. It's basically the same thing. You got the camera updates in the iPhone 14 Pro. When you go over here into settings and you go to camera, that's where you'll notice some of the updates, mostly in here, formats, RAW, stuff like that. That's really where it changes a lot. And other than that, essentially the same thing. Storage wise, if you are running low on storage, I would consider, like, if you need the 1 terabyte option, I would consider going to the 14 Pro. The iPhone 11 Pro was the phone that offered a 512 gig. So you could get that with half the amount you could get on the 14 Pro, but if you need more, go to the iPhone 14 Pro. That will definitely be worth it for you, for sure. So let's switch gears to the cameras. Now, I could take these out and do a full-blown camera comparison, but you do know that it's not going to be comparable. These phones are essentially 3 years apart. So let's go ahead and bring in the iPhone 11 Pro or 11 Pro Max with the green case. Now, the 11 Pro was the phone that brought the incredible camera experience to iPhone with the triple lens setup. This was such a big deal at the time, having the ultra wide, the ability to go into 2x, and then the main. Now, on the iPhone 14 Pro, you add the 3x now, the 2x, the ultra wide, the macro mode. I mean, the incredible systems on both, but I will say you're upgrading a major amount on the iPhone 14 Pro. You cannot do macro mode on here versus on the iPhone 14 Pro. You can see just the difference in results if you try to get close on that main sensor. I mean, you're getting the cinematic mode as well. If you're into video, if you're into photo, you're improving across the board here. Cinematic, front-facing cameras better, more zooming abilities on here, better portrait modes, better RAW modes. I mean, it totally annihilates the iPhone 11 Pro when it comes to, a camera upgrade. This is probably the biggest thing about these. That doesn't mean the 11 Pro is bad. This camera is still very capable. Camera here in 2022. It's not going to let you down, but there is definitely more noise when you zoom into the photos. And the 14 Pro is just a major upgrade over this. So if you do want, the best camera out there, and this is an area where you're like, I just want a better camera on my phone, this is probably my number one reason to recommend to do the upgrade. This is something people don't talk about much, but the battery life is a pretty good upgrade here to the iPhone 14 Pro. The 11 Pro easily lasted all day, but so does the 14 Pro. I don't find the 14 Pro to drastically impress me over the iPhone 11 Pro, but what I will say is that, when you were impressed with your 11 Pro's battery for its size, you're going to be impressed with the iPhone 14 Pro's battery for its size. I do think last year's 13 Pro was a little bit better than this phone though. But if this is the area where you're considering the upgrade and you're like, I don't know, is the battery okay? Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. One area that is improved on the iPhone 14 Pro doesn't get discussed a lot is the actual audio quality that comes out of these speakers. It's actually a good few decibels louder than the iPhone 11 Pro. So if you are looking for increased audio performance, you'll like that. Not only that, one of the biggest changes, which doesn't seem to get a lot of attention either, is 5G, and the phone call quality, reception, 5G. These are things that get a lot more love on the iPhone 14 Pro, as in they work much better. Now, the 11 Pro, it's not like the phone doesn't work. It didn't work. It did work. Apple's not going to put out a phone that doesn't work. But what I will say is that this phone had less bar strength. It would drop call a couple times here and there, where it didn't have that problem much on the 14 Pro. So if you are looking for the better phone call experience, the better, mobile communications phone, it's going to be the 14 Pro. That's actually a better phone overall. So the question is, should you do the upgrade? I mean, clearly it seems like I've just been praising the 14 Pro this whole video, but I want to give the 11 Pro its props too. This phone is comfy in the hand. It still runs fantastic. Cameras are very acceptable in 2022. Battery life is still a champ. It still gets through the day, and it runs all the software you need in your life day to day. 14 Pro literally improves on everything of that phone though. So if you are looking for an upgrade, if you're ready to, you got the funds, you just want to do the upgrade, and you're worried a little bit, maybe I'm not going to be super happy with that upgrade, don't, because you are going to be very happy. Let's just put it this way. If you love your 11 Pro, you're going to love your 14 Pro. Now, if you're looking for something that is a drastic change, I don't think this is that. Like if you're looking for a foldable or something way out of, planet Earth that's just super different, won't feel like that. It'll feel like my 11 Pro on steroids, basically. So let me know your thoughts on the 11 Pro versus the 14 Pro. Are you going to upgrade? Did you already do the upgrade? Are you sticking with your 11 Pro or Pro Max? Let us know down below in the comments. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.